Hi, Sinister. I appreciate you doing all the work that is on Canvas, all the short answers and the like. And so I'm making videos for those who have been doing any of that work so that I can go over your answers with you and tell you a little bit about some of the things that stand out to me in your answers and the like, and just in general to provide feedback, I think, in a much more efficient way than if I were to try to provide it writing. So let's take a look at your answers. So all of the short answers that you have done, I've put them all here with the answers that you have. I've already read through it, and I have taken a look and highlighted certain items that I'd like to talk to you about. In general, they're very good, and I think that certainly it is a reflection of how well you've done, of your understanding of the lines and all sorts of things like that. So let's take a look at the ones that you have done, and if you have any questions, obviously you just let me know. All right, so this one, the first one says, what is the understood object of tenuere? You are correct, the city Carthage. I would, if it doesn't ask you for the Latin, might shy away from giving it merely because erps is not the form of a direct object. That would be, of course, urbem. But if you're implying the erps that is actually here, obviously, I think that's perfectly fine as well. Number 8, it says, what literary device is present? That's perfectly fine. Metonymy is great. And write out the Latin which shows it. The trouble here is that your explanation, it's not referring to the city of Tyre. Instead, it's referring to the city of Carthage because Carthage is a Tyrian colony. They're referred to as Tyrian citadel. So by adding a little bit more of the answer that is here, you actually include incorrect information. And the last one, si quoere parcos, metaphorical activity and literal. The metaphorical activity is the, of course, beginning of laying out fate, laying out destiny, and the like. And I think you've gotten that. However, the literal activity is a bit more subtle in that the idea is that the destiny or fate of everything and everyone is like a scroll that is rolled. And so by unrolling it or rolling the scroll, they are the ones who are obviously creating it. There's another section in the Aeneid that we don't read in which when Venus goes and complains to Jupiter about the fate of her son, he says, I will unroll the scroll of fate and show you. And so that's the way that you obviously are able to see in the future. So let's go to the next one that you've done. Here, number 6, you said you just did not know. And by the way, if the others don't have any highlights, I saw no problems with them whatsoever. And so they are perfectly acceptable and fine answers. And a word on the figures of speech. That's the thing that I think most of my students struggle with the most, is that don't stress about it because at most I would imagine no more than one question will perhaps even deal with the figures of speech that one can find or stylistic device. I didn't write this one, I don't think. The questions that I've been putting on Canvas come from 3 sources. Some I do write, the majority of them I do. Some come from a buddy Yagi, some come directly from the College Board. And so this one I think is from my friend Yagi. And I frankly am with you kind of a little bit on this line and what you could find as far as the literary device and then the impact on the narrative. If you have to choose a literary device, you can always go with something that you can see most easily. Like, for example, here, what flies out to me is it's the most simple. You learn in elementary school, but there's alliteration. Metuanes, molim, montes. I don't know what effect it might necessarily have, but at least you can, in questions like that, are usually worth 2 points, and you could get one of them. But for questions like that, just do the best you can, but do not necessarily worry too much about it. Number 7, it says, name 2 parties, was the for derecerto, the certain agreement. It's not between Aeolus and the winds, I don't think, but more so the agreement between Jupiter. Remember, the Jupiter is the pater omnipotens, and so the agreement is that he's going to give over to Aeolus the power, but he is going to also then give him the responsibility, and so that is it. And then finally, last one, a Megalic chieftain that has a situation to that of the Regum. You have Catman, the son of Catman, that was approached, and people like Dumnorix, who was approached by Orgetorix, when Orgetorix essentially offers them up a position as the king, but still subservient or subordinate to him. So perfectly fine answer what you have here. Probably not reviewing the DBG as of yet, maybe starting this week. Hopefully some will. Exam is 2 weeks away. The next one you have here, the scansion question. Your scansion is perfectly fine, but here I think in the first foot, that's not a spondy. In kute, which of course would be a dactyl, long, short, short. The number 8, it says, what specific action does Merites refer on behalf of your merits? The merits are the wrecking of the ships that Juno is requesting. And so when she says that, I will give you all this reward on behalf of such merits, the merits is doing what Juno wants him to do, which is to obviously crash out the ships. And then finally, what kind of a clause does faciat? It is a purpose clause. And so therefore, it is right here, I will do all of this so that you may make, or so that she may make you a parent. And so it is the purpose of what in the world she is going to do. So purpose clause there. The next one in your personal answers. Here, what Neptune accuses the wind of what characteristic? And it is to be too prideful, but I would argue to be a bit more specific here. In that you can say the characteristic of pride in who they are, because it does mention their race. In other words, they think that they are big shots because they are immortal winds. Number 3, what threat is implied? You might have gone a little bit too far with what you say, he will destroy the winds like the destroyer. I like it very much. It's a good comparison. But just merely the threat is that there's going to be a more strict penalty or a more severe penalty. And down here, the present subjunctive with let use is called jussive, Jussive, from ubio ubere, because it acts like a command, let the subject verb. And what animals were they compared to? Remember that they were not raging bulls, but raging horses, who, of course, were uncontrollable in some ways. They remembered whinnied and things like that. Moving on, so we have the next one that you have done. It is asking you ex or omni ex numero. Remember, he has 7 ships, but there was 20 total. And to just spend a second on this, the 20 is accounted for in the following way. He has 7 of them. One they know has been completely devoured by the ocean, the whirlpool, if you remember. And so that leaves then 12 others that are the 12 ships from which, when he, Aeneas, and Achates are in the cloud, they see the companions. They show up at Dido's temple begging favor from the queen. And there is an actual instance that we don't read in the Latin in which Aeneas's mom, Venus, is going to show up to help him as Achates and he are doing a little scouting in the form of a huntress. She disguises herself and acts as though she's some sort of a prophetess, in that she, of course, says that I've seen this omen of these 12 swans who have landed after a storm and scattered the whole flock, and I think these are your 12 ship companions and things like that. So that's a little bit of an answer on that. Number 4, Achates making a fire. Where else in the Aeneid do we see Achates taking a leading role? It's Achates is with him on the scouting mission that I just mentioned, in which he is in the cloud that is given to Aeneas and him by Venus, his mother. The next one that you have done, and this is the last one here, it's going to be, for your answer, simile is the correct one. Not necessarily an ekphrasis. Remember that an ekphrasis is a literary description, usually of an artwork or even a landscape that we see with the description of the harbor at Carthage. But I would definitely go with simile and not so much an ekphrasis. And your last question, didn't we do these questions already? Yes. We did, but not everybody took them necessarily. And this, I think, actually, I know, is one done by the college board, so you can see the kind of questions that they are asking. However, I will say this, in that I don't think the questions are going to be exactly like what the college board has had in the past as far as the short answer is concerned, merely because of the nature of the exam now being open note and open resource. I plan on making a video in which I go through some strategies with some things that you can certainly put in place to take advantage of all the resources that you might have when you are taking the exam specifically. So I hope you are doing well. I hope this was somewhat good and helpful in the feedback for you individually. If you have any questions, obviously, just let me know. However I can help you, I am more than happy, willing, and wanting to do so. So hope you're doing well. Miss you. Hope I'll be able to see you and everybody else sooner rather than later. But nevertheless, enjoy.